please follow these rules of the boat. Please do not stand on the chairs or benches. The space behind the captain should be kept free of any objects. And whatever you do, please keep your arms and head inside the boat at all times. Some of the bridges are very low, and they come up suddenly.
In the case of an emergency, take a moment to note where the emergency exits are. There are two at the front of the boat, one to the left, and one to the right, and another through the hatch door in the roof. This boat is equipped with life-saving equipment. And if an emergency situation arises, the captain will distribute them and give you instructions. Remember, this is a non-smoking cruise.
When you exit the boat, please check and double-check that you have all your belongings with you. Any questions? Your captain is here to assist you. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the cruise.
Welcome to Amsterdam, capital city of the Netherlands. What better way to experience this compact and very international city than from the unique perspective of its waterways? There certainly are a lot of them. This city has over 100 kilometers of canal. Amsterdam is known for being friendly, open-minded, and progressive. It's a popular place to visit and do business. Just think. In a population of only 800,000 people, you can meet 170 different nationalities.
This area's rich history adds a sparkle that's never far below the surface. During the 17th century, Amsterdam shone especially bright, like gold. This golden age was an extraordinary time. Politics, art, and business all reached new levels of sophistication. Dutch shipbuilders revolutionized sailing. Amsterdam boasted a thriving stock exchange, and painters like Rembrandt and Vermeer produced remarkable art.
With 10 million visitors per year, the Vondelpark is Amsterdam's largest park. Once exclusively used by the wealthy to walk and ride horses, it's now a free public park for all. The Dutch airline KLM's 1970s ad campaign to fly KLM, visit Amsterdam, and sleep in the Vondelpark attracted a lot of American hippies and helped change the park's image.
Just a short walk from the Vondelpark is Max Euweplein, a square honoring the Dutch world champion chess player Max Euwe. It features a giant chess set and a chess museum. Leidseplein is also close by. Once an entry point in the city, it has long been loaded with hostels, theaters, and bars meant to welcome and entertain weary travelers.
What the Netherlands lacks in size, it makes up for in enthusiasm. The Dutch come from a small country, but this hasn't prevented them from making their mark on the world. Their curious nature and tenacity has been apparent since the Golden Age, when Dutch explorers sailed far and wide and set up settlements in faraway places like New Holland and New Amsterdam, which have since been renamed Australia and New York. As a people, the Dutch are eager to learn and have gained some international recognition in many areas, including DJs and music, ice skating, soccer, flower cultivation, water management, and ship and bridge building. The Dutch work hard to stand out from their neighbors while also embracing them. Most Dutch know at least 2 languages, often more.
We're now on the Leidsegracht, or Leidse Canal, a connector canal which cuts across the 3 main canals. Until the 18th century, house numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's religion, profession, or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller a windmill.
As we ride along the canals, keep an eye out for gable stones. There are more than 650 throughout the city. As you find them, you can challenge yourself by guessing what they might mean.
The wealthiest citizens, shipbuilders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herengracht. The Keizersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the 3 canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And so, the farther you lived from the city center, the lower your social class. Today, this would no longer hold true. All of the city center is expensive.
This is the Kaisersgracht, or Emperor's Canal, named after the Austrian Emperor Maximilian. Of the three main canals dug during the city's expansion, the Kaisersgracht is the widest. To orient yourselves, picture the Herrengracht, or Gentleman's Canal, to our right, and the Prinzengracht, or Prince's Canal, to our left. There are many coach houses on the right. They belong to the mansions over on the Herrengracht. Their large doors, big enough for a horse and carriage, make them easy to spot. Have you noticed how many homes have brick facades or faces? At first, Amsterdammers built their homes entirely out of wood, but after two massive fires at the end of the 16th century, the city took action. It passed a law requiring that all newly constructed buildings have facades made of non-flammable brick or stone. But all older buildings were still made of wood. and Amsterdam experienced one of its biggest fires along the Keizersgracht during the 18th century. Today, the risk of fire persists. Even though reinforced concrete is used for new construction, many of the older houses still have their original wooden skeletons.
If you visited this neighborhood 400 years ago, the streets would have been overrun with poor working-class people. You'd have to step around open sewers and steel yourself against the nasty smells of dead animals and the tanning business that hung heavy in the air. Many tanneries set up shop here, and some of the street names reflect this animal-based industry. You can find a bear street, a deer street, and even a skin street. In general, though, it was the cow, and sometimes the goat or hare, whose skins were tanned, and these were used to make shoes, saddles, and many other items. Today, you get to experience something very different. The streets are now lined with cute little shops and fancy restaurants, and the air is fresh and appealing.
As we pass by these richly decorated canal houses, there's so much to notice. So many flourishes and details, ornate door cases, sculptures, and of course the decorative gables at the roofline.
There are several different types of gables, and over the decades, they've gone in and out of fashion. See if you can spot them all. The oldest type is the spout gable. This basic triangular shape is seen only on warehouses. The 17th century step gable looks just as you'd expect, a series of steps. The neck gable, with its straight up and down sides and scrollwork decorations, came a bit later, followed by the bell gable, which has a more rounded, bell-like shape. By the 18th century, the cornice, a flat-top gable, was most popular.
There's one thing that all gables have in common: the hoisting beam. Staircases were so narrow and steep that furniture and goods were lifted to the upper floors via the hoisting beam, along with a good strong rope, a hook, and a pulley. Goods were generally stored up high to keep them dry during the city's frequent floods. There's a strong tradition of moving things this way, as even newly constructed houses have narrow stairways and are still equipped with hoisting beams.
The church was built in the 17th century and is the largest Protestant church of the Netherlands. Hendrik de Keyser, the city's architect, designed it in Dutch Renaissance style. He died before the tower, which was made of stone and brick, was finished. The tower proved to be too heavy for the supports it was built on, which were thought to be of second-hand wood, and it started to lean. When de Keyser's two sons took over the project, they decided to finish it with a lighter building material, wood. At the top of the tower is a blue crown, a gift from the Emperor Maximilian I of Austria to the city for its coat of arms.
One last thing about the Westerkerk. This was where the famous artist Rembrandt was buried, in an unmarked grave.
Now that there are house numbers, look for Kaisersgracht number 123, also known as the House with the Heads. This beautiful Amsterdam Renaissance-style building of brick and sandstone is decorated with 6 beautifully sculpted heads. They're said to represent the Greek gods Apollo, Mars, Ceres, Minerva, Bacchus, and Diana. But legend has it that they symbolize the 6 thieves who once tried to break into the house. They were beheaded by a brave servant.
We are now approaching Brouwersgracht, or the Brewers Canal. This canal was part of the city's 17th century expansion. It connects the three main canals, the Herengracht, the Keizersgracht, and the Prinsengracht, and used to form the northwest border of the city. With its arched bridges, many houseboats, and beautiful architecture, it's now one of the most picturesque waterways in the city.
But that wasn't always the case. Many of the industries banned from residential areas ended up here. That included the smelly ones, like leather and whale oil processing, and of course beer brewing, which gave the Brewers Canal its name. Because water quality was so poor, people turned to beer as a safer, healthier drink. Only the rich could afford wine, which was imported, but everyone drank beer.
Many of the buildings you see are old workshops and factories or warehouses. Merchants originally stored goods in their houses, but as trade increased, more and more warehouses were built. See if you can spot some. Look for triangular spout gables and windows with wooden shutters. The shutters help keep goods dry and dark.
The Dutch have a passion for sports. Whether it's playing a friendly game of soccer or cheering for favorite athletes during a sporting event, we do it with enthusiasm.
Children are encouraged to hone their sports skills both in and out of school. Many secondary schools have state-of-the-art sports facilities, and some academic programs are even specifically designed for gifted athletes. With opportunities like these, it's no wonder that Dutch athletes tend to do very well in international sports competitions. For many years now, the Netherlands national soccer team has ranked among the 10 best in the world.
The Dutch have also won in many Olympic medals, especially in long track speed skating, where we regularly outperform all other nations.
We are now on the Single, passing through locks that were originally built to regulate Amsterdam's water levels and to keep the city from flooding at high tide. Nowadays, locks and dams further out have closed Amsterdam's harbor off from the North Sea, and city residents don't have to worry about tides. Instead, the locks are used to flush water through the canals, keeping them clean. Amsterdam replaces the gate every 50 years or so. If you look closely, you might find the date these gates were last replaced. It's recorded on the gates themselves. And no talk about transportation in Amsterdam would be complete without mentioning bicycles. You've probably figured out that they're Amsterdammers' favorite mode of transport. All around Central Station are places to park, from a huge multi-level bike parking area to a converted ferry filled to capacity with bikes. More people bike than drive to work, and it's estimated that the city has around 1.6 million bikes. That's more bikes than people. In typical Dutch style, the bikes are very practical. Single-speed coasters with foot brakes, sometimes with a crate in front for carrying everything under the sun, including children. In Amsterdam, expect to see everyone from the sophisticated business executive to the harried mother of three, pumping away on a two-wheeler.
The A is a freshwater lake created by a series of locks and a massive dam. Out here, we're 6 meters below sea level, but it's still dry thanks to some truly amazing engineering. The Amsterdam harbor is the second largest harbor of the Netherlands. After the Second World War, the main harbor activities were moved to the western part of the city. But you'll still see a variety of water traffic here, including barges, riverboats, and cruise ships. Riverboats are often docked in the harbor. These long, flat tourist boats sail to the east to the Rhine River in Germany. You can also frequently see huge cruise ships in Amsterdam's harbor. They come from all over the world, entering the harbor through the North Sea Canal.
So on the other side of the water you can see the square building. This used to be the former headquarters of Shell. Nowadays it's a venue with all different kind of things inside, but on top you can swing with your feet at the edge.
North Amsterdam, as well as other areas around the A, are being developed rapidly with a modern flair. You'll find many interesting buildings popping up as Amsterdam continues to grow.
Amsterdammers get across the A using blue and white ferry boats, which shuttle not only people, but also their bikes back and forth for free. But it's not the only way. Got a car? You can drive from the city center over to North Amsterdam through the A, which runs under the lake. Many types of transportation converge here at the harbor. Boats, buses, streetcars, trains. You can see the backside of Central Station, Amsterdam's train station and gateway to the city. Thousands of regional and international trains come and go through this major transportation hub.
Central Station, the transportation hub of Amsterdam, is built on 3 artificial islands and is supported by around 8,600 wooden piles. The building was designed by 2 architects, Kuipers and Van Gent, and its front is really quite amazing. Made of red brick with white accents, it's a combination of Neo-Renaissance style and Neo-Gothic towers, and is called eclectical architecture.
The square building up ahead is the Muziekgebouw, a concert hall for 21st century contemporary music, which includes the black rectangular pit house, a venue for experimental jazz. People come to the Muziekgebouw not only for the music, but also for a meal, drinks, and an outstanding view of the A. Its construction is part of a movement to bring some of the city back to the waterfront. As more locks and artificial islands were built, the city of Amsterdam has become landlocked. But the city continues to expand and is actively developing this new, lively area at the waterfront.
We are now in the Amsterdam, or East Harbor. It was constructed at the beginning of the 19th century. The tall, green ship-like building is NEMO, the Children's Center for Science and Technology. With lots of interactive exhibits, it's a popular place for families. As much as it looks like a ship, that wasn't the original intention. The famous Italian architect, Renzo Piano, designed NEMO as an inverse reflection of the A tunnel, which runs beneath it. The building's height equals the depth of the tunnel. NEMO gets its green color from the oxidated copper that covers its walls. There's a unique sand-filled terrace on the roof where you'll find sunbathers searching for rays while enjoying beautiful views of the harbor and the city. Cruise ships from all over the world dock at the PTA, or Passenger Terminal Amsterdam. It's shaped like a wave, or the back of a whale. Some locals like to call it the goldfish, because the tourists brought here by the big cruise ships help to bolster the economy.
Over here on the right hand side you can see the museum harbour of Amsterdam. This used to be the old-fashioned cargo boat that went around Holland with stone, sand and other goods. And they are typically for Dutch because they don't have a keel, so they have a flat bottom. Instead of that they have like wooden breads on the side of the boat that have the same function as a keel on the left side and on the right side. The other side you can see the Amsterdam, which is a 17th century ship, but the story will tell you everything about that.
The The Maritime Museum is housed near the old harbor in a very large building that was once the weapon arsenal or warehouse for the Amsterdam Admiralty. There were originally 2 docks in front of the building for constructing and arming warships of the Dutch Republic with cannons and other weapons. A replica of a trade ship called the Amsterdam is now docked outside the museum, giving insight into just how small and cramped sailing conditions were.
The building was renovated and reopened in 2011. A beautiful domed glass roof was installed over the spacious inner courtyard. The roof is shaped like a compass rose, and during the day you can look up and see lines like those on an old map. After dark, hundreds of tiny LED lights blink on, creating the illusion of a starry night.
The museum is well worth a visit and contains shipping and sailing artifacts and collections of maps, weapons, model ships, as well as paintings of naval officers and dramatic sea battles.
We are now entering the city to one of Amsterdam's famous sea locks, which is called the Antwerp. This is also where the goods were declared in the old days. In the 17th century, they had like warehouses here on the left-hand side, where they had like Africa, America, so where the goods came from, that warehouse they were stored to declare inside country like we were there.
The canals were built in 3 phases, starting at the west side of the city and moving east. They reached this area, the Plantage, toward the end of the 17th century. At that point, the housing needs of the city had already been met, so officials decided not to allow private housing in this neighborhood. Instead, the space was filled with gardens, courtyards, and charity homes for the elderly. By the 1800s, people began began building homes in this area. Notice its unique feel, with more greenery and wider lanes than anywhere else in the city.
Freedom of religion, free speech, sexual freedom. All of these are outlawed in parts of the world. We are glad to say that we can take freedom for granted in the Netherlands. Dutch television and radio broadcast frank discussions of drugs, euthanasia, and body functions. No one giggles at nudity.
Of course, Dutch law places a few limits on what we can do. Discrimination, libel, and slander are illegal. So was blasphemy until 2014. Like every society, we Dutch have our taboos and disagreements. But on the whole, we're grateful to have a nation devoted to freedom for all.
In 2013, Amsterdam's botanical garden, the Hortus Botanicus, celebrated its 375th anniversary, making it one of the oldest in the world. It began as a modest medicinal herb garden and grew substantially during the Golden Age, as Dutch explorers traveled to the East and West Indies and other faraway places. They brought back exotic plants and seeds, including the tulip, the potato, and tobacco, all of which are now considered common. Botanical Gardens collection has grown to contain thousands of specimens, from the common to the very rare. Nearby, you'll find Wertheim Park, one of Amsterdam's oldest public parks. This picturesque green area is home to the Auschwitz Memorial, a series of broken mirrors. They're positioned to reflect the expansive sky above, symbolizing the broken heaven above Auschwitz.
forever. Forever is a long time, so think about it.
And was likely a narrow footbridge. Since then, it's been reconstructed more than once and grown wider with age. Legend has it that whoever you kiss while passing under the bridge will be your true love for life.
You only get one chance and go back.
We're now going through the Amstel locks. Until the 1870s, these locks were used to protect the city from tidewaters and flooding. Now, thanks to the big sea locks around the city, the canals are no longer affected by the tides. We use them until 2010 to create artificial currents that clean the water. Today, our waterways are so clear you could swim in them, but please don't.
Keep an eye out for the Royal Via Carré, a stately four-story building with a curved roof line facing the Amstel. It was commissioned by circus master and businessman Oscar Carré. Originally used as a circus theater, today it hosts everything from theater and dance to concerts and variety shows. Would you like to stay in the same luxury hotel as Lady Gaga and Mick Jagger? Look for a large, elegant building with a gabled roof line and a glass-topped pavilion in front. That's the Amstel Hotel, where a honeymoon suite rents for 3,750 to 6,000 euros a night. This was the first building in Amsterdam with electric power when it was built in 1868. Singelgracht once formed the outermost edge of Amsterdam. It was dug as part of a major city expansion that began in the 17th century and included 3 other canals, the Herengracht, the Keizersgracht, and the Prinsengracht. These were laid out in concentric rings like growth rings of a tree. They wrap around the older single canal, which served as a moat for the original medieval city. Since then, the city's limits have expanded even further, beyond the Singelgracht. We're coming up on the Pipe neighborhood. Some have likened the Pipe to the Latin Quarter of Paris. The area has transitioned from a neighborhood for the low-income working class at the end of the 19th century to the boho chic outpost of today.
One thing that hasn't changed is the famous Albert Pike Market. Shoppers have been browsing Amsterdam's largest outdoor market for more than 100 years. Once, it was the only market in the city to find such exotic items as olives and mangoes. While it's still the place for international specialties and hard-to-find spices, it's also the perfect place to sample Dutch staples like saltwater cured herring and freshly made pancakes. Let the aromas be your guide.
Today, the city's many canals are still used for transportation and for managing water levels. And they also have a new function, as a place to live. Amsterdam always seems to be short on housing, and during a real crunch in the 1960s and 70s, houseboats appeared as cheap places to live. The city now has around 2,500 of them. Some are old converted sailing vessels. Others are simply homes set on floating paths. As for cheap, not anymore. Houseboats are now connected to gas, water, electricity, and municipal sewage. And owners have to pay taxes, just like anyone else.
For some, no trip to Amsterdam is complete without visiting the Green Light District. That would be the Heineken Experience, naturally. The Heineken Experience is an interactive, self-guided tour which includes a sample. At one time, horses delivered beer around the country on wooden carts. Shire horses are still stable here, and if you're lucky, you can spot them on their daily exercise walks.
Over the centuries, many famous influential painters have hailed from the Netherlands, including Johannes Vermeer, Hieronymus Bosch, Frans Hals, and Piet Mondrian.
One of the greatest Dutch artists of all time is Rembrandt van Rijn, a resident of Amsterdam during the Golden Age. His ability to capture people's emotions and his use of light and dark contrasts catapulted him to fame. Many of his paintings and prints, including the remarkable Nachtwacht, or the Night Watch painting, can be viewed at the Rijksmuseum.
Though unknown and poor for most of his 19th century life, Vincent van Gogh is now world famous. His highly stylized paintings are among the most valuable on Earth. You can purchase tickets to the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum at any Stroma ticket shop. The Rijksmuseum National Gallery is home to many renowned works of art, particularly from the Golden Age. These include Rembrandt van Rijn's very large and very famous painting, De Nachtwacht, or The Night Watch. This masterpiece is a group portrait of a militia company ready to defend their city. Among the many other remarkable works of art are beautiful landscapes of Jacob van Roosdaal and The Milkmaid by Johannes Vermeer.
The Rijksmuseum building itself is a work of art by architect Pierre Kuipers, who also designed Amsterdam's Central Station. Kuiper's original plans for the Rijksmuseum included Catholic-inspired Gothic details, but the city's Protestant population strongly preferred Renaissance style. To compromise, Kuipers ultimately settled on an eclectic style, mixing both neo-Gothic and neo-Renaissance elements. Overall, this late 19th century building was inspired by medieval city gates. Originally, there was talk of running a streetcar under the building's arched gates, but that would have caused the paintings inside the museum to vibrate with each passing streetcar. The cyclist path and a sidewalk for pedestrians that were put there instead offer a nice, quiet alternative.
De stad in ons land, al die Amsterdamse mensen, al die lichtjes 's avonds laat, de verleiding afland.